You know, I prayed for his recovery when he got COVID. And I'd hoped at least he'd come out of it somewhat chastened. But what has he done? He's just doubled down on the misinformation he did before and making it worse. So many lives have been lost unnecessarily because this president cares more about the stock market than he does about, well-being of seniors.
I'm the president. I can't sit in the basement and say, let's wait this thing out. I'm not going to do that. And now I'm immune, they tell me. I'm immune. I could come down and start kissing everybody. I'll kiss every guy, man and woman. Look at that guy, how handsome he is. I'll kiss him. And I'm here today to announce a brand new plan to deliver more opportunity, more security, more fairness, and more prosperity to black communities. We call it the Platinum Plan. Platinum.
I'm trying to get to the truth. I ain't about to be part of nobody program. Ain't nobody gonna, get me to back down. And if y'all don't want to hear the truth, then that's that's kind of a personal problem.
So first, let me say, why do I think outside forces are here pulling strings? Well, part of it is behavior. We have colleagues here who supported you, this nominee, before there was a nominee. That's a little unusual. We have the political ram job that we have already complained of, driving this process through at breakneck speed in the middle of a pandemic while the Senate is closed for safety reasons and while we're doing nothing about the COVID epidemic around us.
I have never been more proud of a nominee than I am of you. You've been candid to this body about who you are, what you believe. You've been reassuring in your disposition, and this is history being made, folks. This is the first time in American history that we've nominated a woman who's unashamedly pro-life and embraces her faith without apology, and she's going to the court. Seat at the table is waiting on you.
Well, I know what he can kiss. I'm James Farr.
And I'm Justin Chapman.
This is NewsRap live at 5. All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of NewsRap live at 5. As I said earlier, I'm James, and Justin and I are in the seat again this week, giving Andre and Barry some much needed time off. And Justin, how you doing today, my man?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Man, good. It's interesting news week, a lot happening nationally, some things happening locally, and, we definitely want to talk about them. I got a lot to update you on the great debate here in Pasadena, but we'll do that on the other side of it. But, there were a couple of town halls this week. Vice President Biden had one, as well as President Trump. Let's talk about Biden. What was your reaction? How did you feel Biden performed in the town hall?
I thought he did reasonably well. It was an hour and a half debate or town hall, and he stuck around afterwards and continued to answer questions. Trump's on NBC was 60 minutes, I believe. And, last night was when the second debate was supposed to happen, and both of their town halls happened at the exact same time. I mean, it seems like Trump could have done the virtual debate. I mean, there just wasn't any reason not to do it. If Biden had pulled out of the second debate like Trump did, he and all his supporters would call Biden weak and scared, but it's what Trump did this time. And it was, Trump did it because he wanted to get more ratings than Biden's town hall, and then aggressively push out that narrative that he got more ratings. But as it turned out, Biden's town hall on ABC got 1 million more viewers than Trump did on 3 other channels combined. And 3 million more if you compare just ABC to NBC. So it kind of backfired on Trump.
Yeah, I mean, but what was confusing to the audience is, why are the 2 town halls competing? It seemed, and I get Trump's strategy, but it was very confusing to the audience when, like you said, he appeared well enough to do a debate. He certainly could have done a virtual debate. And that's what I believe the American public was really looking for. But, some of the claims that he made in his town hall, the 85%, I mean, just some of the, what stood out to you? Like, I can't believe he's saying this.
Yeah, I mean, the 2 town halls were like polar opposite experiences, like 2 different planets. One town hall was talking about tax policy, and the other was talking about QAnon and satanic, pedophile cults. Trump claimed that was one of the things that stood out. Trump claimed that he didn't know anything about the QAnon conspiracy theory. Then went on to describe one of its central tenets, that they're very strongly against pedophilia, which is a kind of a cynical way to put it. But just how the white nationalist group, the Proud Boys, perceived Trump saying in the first debate that they should stand by, that he's supportive of them. QAnon followers undoubtedly perceive Trump's statement at his town hall to be a similar affirmation, which is a pretty dangerous and, taking us down kind of a bizarre and scary path as a country, I think. It's
just, I mean, you couldn't script it week after week, day after day. And it's kind of hard to keep up with the storylines and the plot lines because it twists and turns so much. I mean, we're right now in the middle of a hearing and confirmation process for a Supreme Court justice. That is, I forget the senator's name, just ahead in the opening package. I mean, it seems like the seat was already filled before the nominee. What's happening in that process?
Right. Well, Amy Coney Barrett, the nominee, wouldn't answer a lot of the questions, particularly from the Democrats, because she doesn't have to, because she has the votes to get confirmed, which is probably going to happen in the next couple of weeks before the election, unless, a bunch of Republican senators get COVID-19 or something and it prevents the Senate from meeting. But, she wouldn't say whether voter intimidation is illegal. It is. She wouldn't say if we should commit to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. We should. She wouldn't say whether Trump has the power to delay the election. He doesn't. And she wouldn't say if the human impact on climate change is settled science. So Trump has said multiple times he wants a 6-3 conservative majority on the Supreme Court, so that they can decide the election in his favor if it's not decided on election night.
Right. And I mean, her remarks about, intimidation at the polls was really frightening. I mean, especially because we're weeks away from an election. We've already had these dog whistles from the president in other areas, in other spaces. And then the governor of Michigan, there's an alleged plot to kidnap her. So, I mean, it's not like this is fantasy. I mean, this is life and reality happening right before us. And these are some real bad actors. You know what I mean? It's just, it's unbelievable. You know what I mean? So then my buddy Ice Cube shows up in the media, decides to, weigh in on it. And, what was your take on Ice Cube? And I'll certainly share mine with you.
Yeah, so as I understand it, he's promoting his what's called the Contract with Black America, and it's calling for bills in the next Congress within the first 100 days in 2021 to tackle issues such as lending reform, police reform, prison reform, and a number of other financial issues. And Ice Cube met with Trump, and then the White House released sort of their own proposal to boost the African American community. Which included Ice Cube's biggest requests, $500 billion, capital infusion into the Black community. And I understand that Ice Cube also reached out to the Biden campaign, but they weren't as committal until after the election. So I see why he's moving forward with the Trump administration on this. He wants real action. He wants this money to help the Black community. I just hope he's being careful, because he runs the real risk of Trump using him just to siphon away votes from Biden.
I mean, I understand, what Ice Cube is aiming to do. I don't disagree with it. If that's his call to action and how he's chosen to pick up a fight, if you will, I'm all for it. More power to him. Some of the backlash that he's getting, I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's warranted. I mean, he said very clearly that, oppression is bipartisan. And if you listen to what he's saying, he's come into understanding, it really reverberates with African American men of my age, who are of the same age as Ice Cube, where a lot of us are right now in terms of what our thought process may be. How has it worked out for the last 400 years? How is on November 4th things going to be any different from these systemic issues and some of these oppressive issues? That's where a lot are within my generation and within the culture. We're like, come November 4th, I said it last week, I said it the week before, I'm gonna say it this week. Come November 4th, I will be unbothered by the results, because the reality is the black tax does not go away for me. The systemic issues are not just light switched off. And because you substitute one white supremacist with another white supremacist, don't expect me to feel like the savior has come. So that's where I am with it. That said, Trump has to go.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with Ice Cube that when he says that, working towards racial equality and equity and restorative justice is and should be nonpartisan. It's a nonpartisan issue. And $500 billion would be absolutely great if Trump actually does follow through with that. I mean, he stiffs his own lawyers and
Sure.
contractors. So
Sure.
It's a reasonable amount of skepticism, I think, is required here.
Well, it has to be. But see, again, that skepticism is a daily lived experience from an African American. You know what I mean? If it happens, woo, great. You know what I mean? Finally, right? If it doesn't happen, we've kind of already been conditioned that both parties are with and I can't say that word, but, as it relates to actuality and groundwork and actually putting policy forth, all Ice Cube essentially is asserting that we represent 13% of the population. We should be able to participate in at least 13% of the economy that is in this country, considering our history of building this country out, our innovative contributions to this country. We should be able to stay at the table. So, if nothing else, I give Ice Cube an A for effort. I mean, he did something. A lot of keyboard activists do nothing, and so we shouldn't necessarily. Ice Cube is still the person who gave many in the community and many in the culture to stand proudly and say FTP. I can't finish it from there, but let's check in with the local. We get the queue, and then we'll continue the conversation on the other side.
This is your local news brief for Friday, October 16th, 2020. As of Thursday, October 15th, Pasadena has now had a total of 2,664 total reported COVID-19 cases and 129 COVID-related deaths. That's an increase of 24 new cases, but no new deaths here in Pasadena since last week. LA County officials have warned of an increase in outbreaks at workplaces. According to LA County Director of Public Health, Dr. Barbara Ferrer, we are beginning to see modest increases in cases and outbreaks. And while this may be expected as more people are engaged in activities at work and in their private lives that put them in contact with others, it is concerning and slows down our recovery journey. A debate at the Tournament House between Pasadena mayoral candidates Terry Tornick and Victor Gordo was postponed Sunday after a Tournament of Roses staffer tested positive for COVID-19. The event, which debate organizers dubbed the Great Debate, was set to be staged outside in front of the building. Officials said the decision to postpone the debate was made out of an abundance of caution. Organizers have rescheduled the debate as a virtual event to be held Saturday, October 17th at 1 p.m. The debate can be viewed on the Pasadena Star News website, the Conversation Live Facebook page, and on the Arroyo channel. Pasadena City College received the John W. Rice Diversity and Equity Award on Wednesday, September 30th. The award is given for outstanding efforts to improve student equity, diversity, and success. It is named after former California Community College's Board of Governors member, Dr. John W. Rice. In an email, the Pasadena City College Foundation said, "This recognition honors the work that each of us does every day to help our students achieve their educational goals. The award committee especially recognized our college's ability to adapt and continue our work through the pandemic."
And welcome back. Justin Chapman and James Farr here. We're filling in for Andre and Barry. They're getting some time off, much needed rest. And, top of the hour, we talked about the Trump-Biden town halls. Trump told us he was ready to kiss everybody. We touched a little bit on Ice Cube. So now I kind of want to talk about the things that are happening local, Jared and Justin. I mean, great debate. Kind of deflated.
So what happened with that? There was supposed to be a debate between mayoral candidates, Terry Tornick and Victor Gordo, last Sunday. Got canceled at literally the last minute. So what happened there?
Right around 1:10, the debate was scheduled to start live at 3 p.m. About 1:10, we received word that a Tournament of Roses staffer had been exposed and tested positive for COVID. Members of our team, I was not a part of that advanced team, but members of our team were on an advancing of the House and going over some technical issues and were exposed to that staffer. So we didn't find that out until right at 1:10. And literally, we were setting up, we were doing all of the pre-checks. Bradley and I were going over questions. We were ready for the debate. The candidates were ready for the debate. It was just, once we really completely understood the severity of it, I think the right decision was made to, hey, let's pull the plug. We did not feel comfortable inviting the candidates to come on site, having that information. So I can't speak for how they do things in Washington, but in Pasadena, we take COVID pretty seriously. And if there's an exposure, we all agreed that the right thing to do was to cancel it. So it's back on tomorrow.
What time?
1 p.m. It'll be live on the Arroyo channel. You can go to the Pasadena Star News website. There'll be a link up there, as well as you can watch it on the Conversation Live Facebook page.
So this one will be virtual, right?
Yeah, we opted to go with the virtual idea, which, virtual has its benefits. Obviously, we're able to socially distance. There's a lot more convenience, but then there's also a lot less control from a production standpoint. And so, we've done everything we can. We've modified. I can say one candidate did want to do the debate live. I won't say which one, but another candidate declined. And so the compromise was that we would go ahead and do it remotely. But we have been working on this.
They also did. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
They also spoke to a couple of neighborhood associations this week. It wasn't like a debate style, but they sort of each tuned in separately and talked about a number of issues. Mansionization, which is an ongoing issue. The ongoing question of defunding or the police or realigning the resources, the public safety resources. One thing I noticed is that Gordo, almost every single debate I've seen or read about, he always brings up the San Gabriel Valley Council of Governments. It's called the SGV COG, and it's a collection of the cities in city governments in San Gabriel Valley, and how Pasadena is no longer a part of that group. And he argues that Pasadena needs to have a seat at that table, and Tornick says that that's a red herring, that group doesn't serve Pasadena's interests. For example, it's a group that was in favor of the 710 freeway tunnel, which a lot of Pasadena was not. But Gordo brings up every time, and I wonder, aside from the issue of whether or not that's a good idea to rejoin, is that really an issue that the average voter cares about? Does the average Pasadenan even know what the SGV cog even is? He spends a lot of political capital or time on it, and I'm curious if Pasadenans see that as a major campaign issue.
I mean, I think there are a lot of single issue policy or campaign stumping points that most of Pasadena just doesn't understand, including how our city government is structured, how our charter is that we're a city manager governed city, and that our mayor, no matter who the mayor is, only holds 1/8 of a vote on a total council. And so while he or she, in this case, he really serves a lot more ceremonial duties and activities and kind of as a forward facing representative of the city, the authority isn't actually in the mayor's seat. It's evenly vested across the entire dais. And so whether it's a RENA or the San Gabriel Valley Council, before George Floyd, I dare say most of Pasadena didn't understand what police oversight is. They certainly hadn't heard of defunding the police. And so these are all new issues that are coming to the campaign. And whether or not it's time well spent, the voters will have to decide that on November 3rd. And then the viewers today can actually watch tomorrow. I'm not going to opine on one position or editorialize right now because I still have to do a debate tomorrow. But next week, I'll be sure to let you know exactly what my opinions and how I felt everything flowed.
I mean, maybe we should be voting for city manager.
I mean, I think if I could ratify the charter, but I mean, we elect city council members. City council members are the city manager's boss. That's who he reports to. And so if 5 of them agree that he's doing a great job, then he's doing a great job. If 5 of them agree that he's not doing a great job, then we look for ourselves another city manager. So, it'll just be interesting because under this city manager's leadership, and you look at the use of force by the police department and the deaths. I mean, the McLean family just recently filed a federal civil lawsuit. And so you said you had been reading up on that. I'm seeing it from behind the lines, but what's your take?
Yeah, I believe Anthony McLean's father filed a lawsuit, and there's a second lawsuit also that was filed this week that I haven't read too much about yet, but I know there's a couple lawsuits going forward, so that's going to be interesting to watch. And a couple of other things that I noticed happen this week is that the Pasadena Police Department said they're going to be hiring about 24 new officers to replace officers who are retiring over the next couple of months. And Chief Perez said the search is going to focus on the surrounding community, which I hope is true. But that's something that the community is going to have to watch because there's going to be newer officers coming in. We're going to be losing some institutional knowledge. It's a lot of these younger officers that are involved in these officer-involved shootings, although I don't like that term. But that's something to watch. And also, the interim fire chief is stepping down soon. He's retiring next month, and they're going to start a hiring search for that. They never really did tell us what happened to the previous fire chief, Patrol Washington. Really, they just kind of pushed that through. Some of the fire union leaders didn't like him for whatever reason, and so they sort of leaned on the city manager to get rid of him. What really happened there?
I because we don't have a whole lot of time, and that's a whole lot to unpack. I mean, we could we could carry it over to Facebook because we got to get out of here in about the next couple of minutes. But I'll first address real quickly the hiring that you mentioned that the police department is going to do. You know, this is really going to be, for me, a litmus test on how they are adapting to the cultural sensitivity. And if you're going to hire locally, if you're going to look, you know, basically within community, there are a lot of nuances involved when you're screening someone through a background check. And if there is a white lens in front of that screener, they're going to look at some things without the proper context. You know, they may not understand a derogatory credit remark because of a outstanding medical bill that would just simply disqualify someone. And so there's more story, there's more backstory. And so they have to be able to adjust to understand that, yes, there is a standardized process of going through the application and background process, but there's nuance and there's specifics that apply to each one. We got to get out of here. We'll pick it up on the other side. Continue the conversation. I want to talk about the city manager and the interim fire chief. So I'm James Farr.
And I'm Justin Chapman.
This has been Live at 5 NewsRap. See you next week.